More on the horror at Fort Hood. As we have been reporting, there were a number of warning signs about Major Hassan's mental health in the year leading up to the attack. Unfortunately, those red flags were not enough to stop the massacre that occurred last Thursday. And joining me now with more on all of this is the author of the #1 New York Times bestseller, Culture of Corruption, Obama and his team of tax cheats, crooks, and cronies. Michelle Malkin is with us. Michelle, welcome back.
Thanks a lot, Sean.
All right, you wrote a pretty hard-hitting column. Foolish diversity led to death was the headline in the New York Post in your article. Explain.
Yes. Well, I think one of the most telling red flags, one of the most big honking neon signs, was this 50-slide presentation that he gave to fellow Army doctors at Walter Reed. This looks like it to have been an at least hour-long presentation that he gave. It was supposed to be on a health issue. Instead, he chose, and this was the title of the report, Sean, The Quranic Worldview of Muslims in the Military. And I urge every American to take a look at this 50-slide presentation, because he was basically showing his hand. He was warning his own fellow Army doctors and superiors that he was basically the ticking time bomb that some of his doctors and colleagues thought he was. He was citing Quranic chapter and verse for jihad. He was warning against what he called so-called adverse events. In other words, other events over the last 10, 15 years involving Muslim soldiers gone wild because they could not reconcile their adherence to Islam with their duty to protect our country and their fellow soldiers.
Let me go through a few of these. The Washington Post reported it. To their credit, you reported it. We've been reporting it here and on my radio program. For example, one of the issues that you're referring to, we love death more than we love life. Muslims in the military is talking about. Slide number 2. It's getting harder and harder for Muslims in the service to morally justify being in the military that seems constantly engaged against fellow Muslims. Another one cited Quranic sanctions for killing fellow believers, and Hassan made clear that he wasn't alone among Muslim soldiers who should not serve in any capacity that renders them at risk of hurting or killing believers unjustly. So
that's right. And
go ahead.
Yes, and many of those cases I've reported on previously, including the fragging case, the horrific fragging case in Kuwait involving the Muslim convert Hassan Akbar. He was convicted and sentenced to the death penalty, but this man remains alive today on appeal. Then there was, of course, John Allen Muhammad, who was an army sniper and was put to death this week for the horrid jihadi-infused and jihadi-inspired Beltway sniping case 7 years ago.
Look at how the media, though, has tried to protect and not come out and say what is so clearly obvious to anybody that is paying any attention to this. I mean, you had the New York Times, and they're reporting on this whole thing, and other news outlets. You know, he's suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. He never went to the military. Yet an NBC anchor literally said, well, that's not a crime to call up al-Qaeda, is it? Now, if you're trying to get in touch with al-Qaeda with 20 emails, that's a pretty big warning sign you might be buying into that ideology.
Yes, you would think so, Sean. But we have a propensity in this country among the media and among the left. It's a rush to whitewash. And we have had a difficult problem since 2001, talking openly and honestly about the threat of jihad, and in particular about the strain of Islam that these very dangerous individuals worship.
Yeah.
And I think that the problem is that there are millions of them that subscribe to what could be considered around the world mainstream Islam, the idea that you should not tolerate infidels and that you should force them to either convert or pay a jizya tax. And I want to talk about something else, which is the fact that this problem has festered a long time, and it's an inconvenient truth that much of this happened under the Bush administration as well. The military, the FBI, the State Department, our prison systems, where we had these Muslim chaplains funded during the Bush years by Wahhabi lobbyists who were spreading jihadi propaganda among the inmate population. abortion. Even the fire department, the New York Fire Department, employed an imam who was spreading vicious anti-American and violent extremism.
Well, you have an Obama ally, Mayor Daley, suggesting that it's America's love for guns. But think back, you know, man-caused disaster, not a war on terrorism. Homeland Security Secretary Janet Napolitano, remember she spent all this time, you know, looking at right-wing extremism, you know, groups that are opposed to abortion and immigration, or the liberalization of immigration laws. That's where their focus was. Why wouldn't it be on radical Islam, considering that's who are responsible, radical Islamists, for the attack on 9/11? I don't understand the mindset.
Yes, well, that's the double standard that we have faced over the last 9 months. This problem has merely been exacerbated by the Obama administration and its euphemisms and its refusal to use the word extreme when it comes to anything that doesn't have to deal with Fox News or you or me or our friends in conservative talk radio or on the internet. You know, it would be funny if it weren't deadly serious. And the problem is that political correctness is a gangrenous infection, and we have to heal ourselves, Sean.
Well said, because this could have been prevented. 13 innocent people lost their lives, and we could have prevented
14,
this.
the unborn
14,
child.
that's right.
14.
That's 14. Well, good point. And 31 people injured. It could have been prevented. Michelle, good to see you. Thank you. And